scale just fell. It's fine. I've always wanted to make a dress out of the pages of a book. And the idea of cutting up the pages of a book kind of felt wrong to me. And so I kind of just resigned myself to like, oh, maybe I'll use newspaper or something that wasn't maybe as important as a book, maybe something more disposable. And then I found these in someone's trash can. So clearly they were trying to dispose of these bound paper pages. I feel less bad about destroying these books. I could do that like 40,000 more times. Oh no! I'm probably not gonna rip them out all individually. I think I'll like do a knife. If I had a saw, that would be the easiest way, but I don't have a saw. I have an X-acto knife, and I think that's what we'll do. First things first, I have to build a base. So here I am building the same corset I've built like 5 times now for YouTube videos. And it's because it's tried and true, and this pattern is one of my favorites. It's totally a go-to, and I can construct this entire corset in a matter of like maybe 3 hours, which is pretty impressive because there's a lot that goes into it. And maybe one day I will do a full in-depth video of how I construct this corset and like all the little things that go into it, but today is not that day. I'm just trying to get through this portion of the process because what comes next is so labor intensive and took so much of my time and effort that I want to get just straight to it as fast as possible. As a side note, I will say this about making corsets. I really love the process, but the one part that I just can't stand more than any of the other parts is inserting all of the plastic bones, cutting them down to size, sanding them down, making sure they're not like sharp and pokey. This part takes forever and it's my least favorite thing, but luckily we're done with that now and it's just time to bind the bottom. You can use bias tape for this part, but I just went ahead and used a straight strip of fabric that I cut off of my original material thingy, which is a bed sheet, by the way, because your girl is cheap and thrifty. And then after it's bound, all you have to do is add in the little grommets, and that's it. Like, you just punch them on in there and you're done, basically. The next part is making the skirt. So I'm just kind of measuring with my body how much fabric I actually have, and it turns out I have just barely enough to do what I want to do. I cut out a circle skirt and then I serged the edges of it just so that they didn't fray so much. I just wanted to like contain them. And then I attached the skirt to the waistline of the corset. It shows me pinning it here, but I did stitch it down. This is what I've got after one day. It literally just looks like a muslin mock-up, which is exactly what I was going for. I have it lowered all the way to the ground because I want to extend out the skirt a little bit more, like to there or something. My method for doing that is to just add a bunch of fabric down there and cover it with the paper eventually. So that's what I'm doing. I definitely just eyeballed this shape, which is a method I do not recommend, but it worked out great for me this time. Like something similar to this, because it's going to be covered in all the paper. I think it'll be fine that the shape's not perfect. I'm going to let this dress hang overnight, that way it gets all of the like weird bias stretches out of it so it hangs right, and then I'll attach this in the morning. And now it is time to very unceremoniously do what this entire video is about doing: chopping up a book. This is the first book of Harry Potter, and I cut it out with an X-acto knife. I almost dropped it. We're gonna put that somewhere safe. Okay, cutting these pages out is way more difficult than I ever thought it was going to be. I'm like sweating just a little bit and my hand is tired. So my plan is to use all of these pages, and then when these are all used up, I'll move on to the next books, because I am thinking that handsaw would just make real quick work of these. The little X-acto knife is not easy. This is the smallest book of the series. What am I gonna do when I get down to these bigger boys? I can't do that with just like an X-acto knife. Like, it feels so wrong to be cutting a book up, and yet so right that it's Harry Potter. So My game plan from here on out is basically to tape the smaller pages together into like a big sheet of paper. And then I'm gonna manipulate that probably by pleating and make it more textured. I ran out of masking tape, so now I have to go get more, but it's snowing outside, so I put my coat on, and I found my keys in the pocket of my coat, and they've been missing for almost an entire year, so that's a win. I ended up buying about exactly 8 rolls of tape, and it was the perfect amount. And then I got some Halloween candy also, because this was the day after Halloween. And I will tell you what, pleating these gigantic pieces of paper takes forever, and it is difficult to keep them all uniform. All of these are folded, and I have 20 of them. They're like big fans. I don't think it's gonna be enough. I think I probably need twice as much, and this took me all day to do. So I am just gonna have to get back at it, because this is turning into something a lot more ridiculous and time consuming than I ever thought it was, which means I'm on track. On track to tear up more books, and turns out tearing them up like this is definitely the way to go about it. So much easier. Quickly doubling back to the dress, I marked the middle back and the middle of the train and just pinned and sewed it together. Not a lot of technique there, just slapped it on, just did it. Same with these like first fans. I really didn't know what I was doing. I just slapped a ton of hot glue onto it and then just pressed the fan onto the fabric, and it totally worked, so 0 regrets there. And then I just put on a movie and continued this technique of eyeballing where things should go and just trying to attach it with glue, as best as I can anyways. Believe it or not, gluing these gigantic pieces of paper onto the dress takes hours. And once it starts to take form and it's like time to start doing the parts that are closer to the bodice, it gets so difficult to even get to that part because the dress is so stiff and tricky. And oh, here I am gluing on the bodice. It's gonna be real square. It's gonna be a real square bodice, and I will show you what I mean. Look at that. Trying to transport this dress is going to be an absolute nightmare. I literally just tried to move it from like one side of the room to the other, and this is what happened. So, completely fell off the mannequin. It's fine. It's terrible. Everything is wrinkly now, and yep. I fully accepted that the fate of this creation was that it would one day get so crumpled that it would be completely unrecognizable, so I decided to get pictures taken of it as quickly as possible. Okay, that's enough of that. This dress is an abomination. It has one decent side and one really ugly side, and the waist, what do you mean waist? What waist? That is the boxiest waistline I've ever created. Also, walking in this is an absolute nightmare. It's just so impractical, and I'm just so glad it's over. I don't even have the decency to make a proper ending to this video. This is it. This is the end. We are done. I'm done with that project, and I don't think I'm ever gonna do anything like that again. It was just too time consuming, and the payoff was so underwhelming. Here are some pictures that we took from the photo shoot. The dress is trash, but it does photograph well. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. New videos are on their way soon. In this house, we craft in pajamas.